Millionaire husband cheated and kicked out his pregnant wife 5 years later. He regretted it. He was once hailed as the city's brightest star, a dashing millionaire who graced the pages of Forbes, commanded respect in the boardroom, and reveled in his picture-perfect marriage. Yet, behind the polished smile and designer suits lay a heart twisted by arrogance and betrayal. In one vicious outburst, he cast out his pregnant wife, certain she was a burden on his ambitious life. Little did he know that single act would haunt him for years. Now, 5 years later, hollowed by regrets and haunted by a past he tried to bury, he's about to face the consequences of the cruelest mistake he ever made. Oliver Beaumont was not born with a silver spoon. Raised in a cramped corner of Queens, New York, he shared a one-bedroom apartment with his single mother, Lucy, who worked double shifts at a local diner. To everyone around him, Oliver seemed both fiercely determined and unnervingly focused from a young age. He told himself that one day he'd never worry about making rent, that he'd live perched above the city in a gleaming penthouse. That ambition drove him to excel. He secured scholarships, powered through business school, and eventually launched a boutique real estate firm, Beaumont Properties. It specialized in flipping undervalued commercial lots into profitable ventures. By 30, Oliver's knack for transforming rundown properties into high-end assets had the press labeling him the real estate wonderkind. Forbes mentioned him in an article about up-and-coming real estate stars. He felt invincible. During this meteoric ascent, Oliver met Celia Donovan, a graduate student in architecture. Interning at a design studio, he first spotted her at a networking event in Manhattan's Flatiron district. She was discussing sustainable building methods with an older architect, her eyes sparkling with genuine passion for environmental design. Intrigued by her warmth and sincerity, Oliver sauntered over and introduced himself. Their connection was swift and electric. Within months, they were dating, bonding over city walks, and shared fascination for building design. Where Oliver saw numbers and profit margins, Celia saw artistry and social impact. She tempered his sharper edges with a dreamier perspective. Her optimism about changing communities for the better offered an antidote to Oliver's bottom-line mentality. When he proposed on the rooftop of the Peninsula Hotel, it wasn't just about romance. It was about merging visions, his unstoppable drive, her unshakable compassion. Celia said yes through joyful tears, and soon they married in an intimate ceremony at a converted warehouse in Brooklyn. Exactly the kind of transformation they both loved. Their pictures, him in a tailored tux, her in a flowing gown, adorned the walls of Oliver's new penthouse. To the outside world, they were unstoppable, a power couple forging a modern empire. But marriage, Celia would later note, is about staying when success isn't guaranteed. As time went on, Oliver's focus skewed heavily toward ambitious deals, late-night negotiations, and flights to scout potential properties in far-flung states. Celia watched him bend the moral lines in pursuit of bigger and bolder profits. Concern flickered in her eyes, but she loved him, believing they'd find balance eventually. Little did she know, a wave of betrayal was cresting on the horizon. Oliver's restlessness, stoked by success and flattery, would lead him into the arms of someone else. And when faced with the pregnancy that should have united them, he would choose power and greed over love and loyalty, launching a tragedy that would take half a decade to unravel. As Beaumont Properties expanded, so did Oliver's appetite for high-stakes deals. Overnight trips became the norm. He jumped between Los Angeles, Miami, and even London, orchestrating multi-million-dollar property acquisitions. At first, Celia tried to accompany him, hoping to combine work and pleasure, but the constant travel clashed with her architecture projects. Soon she found herself at home, increasingly alone, Late-night phone calls, once filled with whispered "I miss you" sentiments, shifted into quick updates about property valuations or heated rants about troublesome investors. Whenever Celia tried to share her own concerns about her new eco-friendly building designs or her desire to start a family, Oliver brushed her aside, claiming he was exhausted or pressed for time. Small cracks began to form in their marriage. Celia noticed that Oliver's phone lit up at odd hours with messages he never discussed. He began dressing sharper than usual, wearing new colognes she hadn't picked out, returning home with traces of perfume that wasn't hers. He changed his passcodes. When she asked about it, he snapped, accusing her of being paranoid. Celia felt a pit of dread settle in her stomach. One evening, she confronted him directly. She had prepared a simple dinner, lighting candles to evoke the warmth they once shared. Over a plate of her homemade pasta, she laid her heart bare, saying she felt him slipping away. Instead of reassuring her, Oliver seemed annoyed. He paced around the living room, phone in hand, as if waiting for an urgent text. "Celia," he finally muttered, "you can't expect me to shut down my business just to hold your hand. This isn't some fairy tale. Big deals require sacrifice." Her eyes stung with tears. "I'm not asking you to shut down your business, Oliver. I just need you, us." But Oliver was already lost in the allure of the next big venture. In reality, he'd grown infatuated with a young interior designer named Samantha Reed, a consultant for one of his lucrative hotel renovation projects in Miami. Samantha was flirtatious, bold, and worshipped Oliver's ambition. She was the polar opposite of Celia's gentle, grounding presence. Oliver, trapped in his own narcissistic haze, found Samantha's admiration more thrilling than his wife's steady devotion. Yet, Celia had no concrete proof, just a gnawing intuition. Driven by love and memories of their shared dreams, she tried to cling to hope. She believed her husband was merely stressed, that if she was patient, he'd return to the man she married. That hope flickered dangerously when Celia discovered she was pregnant. A swirl of excitement and anxiety overwhelmed her excitement for the life inside her, and fear over Oliver's reaction. Would this new chapter bring them closer, or would it widen the gulf between them? Mustering courage, she decided to tell him at dinner, imagining he might see in this unborn child a reason to slow down and refocus. Little did she realize, Oliver had already chosen a different path, one that would sever their bond in the cruelest way. Celia rehearsed her announcement all afternoon. She'd gently place a wrapped onesie on the dinner table, a small gift signifying the baby. She even tied a note to it saying, "Can't wait to meet you, Daddy." Standing before a mirror in their master bedroom, she took several calming breaths. This news, she believed, might be the spark that rekindled the fading warmth between them. When Oliver arrived home, the stale tension he carried in his shoulders was all too visible. He barely greeted Celia, tossing his briefcase onto the couch and mumbling about a stressful meeting. Undeterred, she led him to the table, where 2 plates of steak and roasted vegetables waited. "Oliver," she began, her voice gentle, "I have something special for you." He half glanced at her, more focused on checking messages on his phone. She gently placed the wrapped onesie in front of him. Confused, he set his phone aside to open it. The instant he read the note, his expression froze, lips parting in a silent gasp. For a moment, Celia glimpsed something that resembled genuine emotion, a flicker in his eyes that might have been excitement or awe. But it extinguished almost immediately as a dark cloud of frustration took hold. He pushed back from the table, brow furrowed. "How far along?" he asked, voice clipped. "About 6 weeks," she replied softly, heart pounding. "I found out just yesterday." Oliver raked a hand through his hair, pacing around the dining room. "This is not good timing," he muttered. "I'm on the verge of finalizing a massive deal in Florida. I can't have distractions right now." Celia blinked, her joy deflating. Distractions. This is our child, Oliver. We've talked about wanting a family eventually. He shook his head. Eventually, yes. But not now. I'm swamped. Celia, how did this happen? Were you not careful? His words cut like a blade. Celia's cheeks burned, tears brimming. We both decided to stop birth control months ago, remember? She managed, voice trembling. You said you wanted us to try soon. Oliver muttered something under his breath, anger swirling in his eyes. Plans change. You should have told me you were off the pill. This puts a massive wrench in the works. Celia felt sick to her stomach. She'd envisioned him laughing or crying tears of joy, enveloping her in a hug. Instead, he stared at her like she'd single-handedly sabotaged his empire. Panicked, she tried to salvage the moment, stepping closer. Oliver, this is our baby, she pleaded. We can handle this. We have resources, money, and we'll have each other. But Oliver turned away, picking up his phone to check something. In that gesture, Celia saw his choice. Business first, family second. Shattered, she realized the man she loved was slipping through her fingers, and the child growing inside her was collateral damage in a world consumed by power and deals. Dinner lay untouched. Without another word, Oliver stormed out of the penthouse, claiming an emergency meeting. The onesie remained on the table, a silent testament to dreams crushed in mere minutes. Celia sat alone, tears dampening her cheeks, replaying the moment her pregnancy announcement transformed from a gift to a burden in her husband's eyes. In the days that followed, the atmosphere in the penthouse turned icy. Oliver seemed to avoid Celia, often claiming urgent obligations. When he was around, their exchanges were minimal and tense, overshadowed by an unspoken resentment. Celia, desperate for an explanation, tried to schedule a calm sit-down, but Oliver brushed her off every time. Behind the scenes, Samantha Reed's presence in Oliver's life loomed larger. She had become his sounding board, a confidant he shared frustrations with, particularly about the unexpected pregnancy. Samantha fanned his self-pity, insisting that a child would only weigh him down. Whenever Oliver vented about Celia's insensitivity to his business timeline, Samantha validated his complaints, fueling his sense of victimhood. One evening, Celia decided enough was enough. She rummaged through Oliver's office, looking for clues. Her heart pounded with guilt. She'd never snooped like this. But the secrecy had reached a boiling point. That's when she stumbled upon receipts from a luxury hotel in Miami, receipts indicating 2 dinners for 2, along with an extended stay that didn't match Oliver's official itinerary. Worse, there were pictures on his desk of him and Samantha standing shoulder to shoulder at a beachfront property, beaming at the camera with an intimacy far beyond professional courtesy. Devastation slammed into Celia. She sank to the floor, tears blurring her vision. The puzzle pieces aligned too well, his aloofness, the phone calls at odd hours, the dismissive attitude. He wasn't just frustrated by the pregnancy, he was entangled with another woman. Oliver returned home to find the penthouse lights dim, and Celia standing in the living room, the incriminating receipts and photos in hand. Her face was etched with anguish. Care to explain? She asked, voice shaking. He froze, guilt evident in his eyes before it hardened into defensiveness. You went through my stuff? He snapped, snatching the receipts from her. That's a massive invasion of privacy. Celia's anger flared. Don't you dare turn this on me, she cried, wiping at tears. You're the one sneaking around with another woman, while I'm pregnant with our child. Oliver's posture stiffened. It's not what you think, he spat, though his tone lacked conviction. Samantha is a business associate. The trip required us to entertain clients. Stop lying. Celia cut in, voice raw. I can see from the photos it's more than that. You can't hide your affair anymore. For a moment, Oliver's facade cracked, revealing a flicker of shame, but instead of admitting his wrongdoing, he lashed out. "This is exactly why I'm done your constant nagging, prying, clinging. You don't understand the pressure I'm under." Celia's lips trembled. "I'm your wife, Oliver. We made vows, and I'm carrying your child. Doesn't that mean anything?" His silence said it all. Rage and self-loathing warred on his face. Then he hurled words she'd never forget. "I never asked for this baby, and I won't let you ruin my life with your fantasies. If you can't accept how things are, you should leave." The finality in his voice crushed her. Celia stared, disbelieving, as Oliver marched to the master bedroom. In that instant, the dream of a bright future shattered. As tears streaked her cheeks, Celia grappled with the horrifying truth. Her husband not only cheated, he wanted her and the unborn baby gone. The next day dawned with a brittle hush. Celia, eyes swollen from a night spent crying, packed a small bag of essentials. She wondered if Oliver would apologize or beg her to stay. But he left early for a flight to Miami, uttering only a cold, "This isn't working anymore." No acknowledgement of their baby, no mention of love. Alone in the penthouse that now felt like a stranger's domain, Celia found herself clutching her belly, silently promising the child she wouldn't let them suffer for Oliver's callousness. She had savings from her architecture project, but it was hardly enough to maintain the extravagant lifestyle Oliver had built. The pain of betrayal mixed with an urgent need to survive. By afternoon, the building's doorman handed Celia an envelope. Inside was a formal notice from Oliver's lawyer, detailing her agreement to vacate the property within 48 hours. It spelled out a paltry settlement that might cover a few months' rent barely. The final lines suggested that if she pursued more, Oliver would fight her in court. Celia's hands shook. The cruelty of his actions took her breath away. Her pregnancy was only a few months along, her future uncertain. Their marriage had no formal prenuptial arrangement, but Oliver's legal team was swift and ruthless, citing his sole ownership of the property and assets. The letter threatened to bury her in paperwork if she dared contest. It was as if Oliver wanted to erase her entirely. Feeling numb, Celia called her best friend, Layla, a fellow architect. Layla insisted Celia come stay at her cramped studio apartment in Brooklyn. It was hardly ideal, but Celia had nowhere else. She left a brief note on the kitchen counter. "I'm leaving, as you wanted. I hope you remember someday that there are things more important than deals, Celia." She walked out with a single suitcase, stepping into the quiet elevator. Memories flitted before her eyes, Oliver's wedding vows, the nights they stayed up giggling about dream homes. The day they discovered they shared a passion for renovating abandoned spaces into sanctuaries. All of it felt like a distant dream. The building's doorman, who'd once greeted her cheerfully as Miss S. Beaumont, now avoided her gaze. No one stopped her. She slipped away from the penthouse like a ghost. Celia arrived at Layla's tiny studio, tears streaming. In that moment, her friend's hug was the only warmth she had. For hours, they discussed the betrayal, the pregnancy, and the bleak horizon. "He can't just throw you out," Layla seethed, "especially when you're pregnant with his child. But legal battles cost money." And Celia felt too emotionally shattered to fight immediately. In the following days, she tried to find stability. Her architecture job allowed remote work, offering some steady income. Yet each morning, she'd awake to the reality of her precarious situation, outrunning heartbreak while her body changed daily to accommodate the life inside her. Oliver, too, would soon discover that there are consequences to casting away what truly mattered. But for now, Celia faced only darkness, unaware that her quiet resilience would one day become the very thing that undid him. Time marched on, heedless of heartbreak. In the wake of her eviction, Celia refocused on survival. She rented a modest one-bedroom apartment in Queens, close to Layla's place. The area wasn't glamorous, but it provided a sense of community. Neighbors greeted her kindly, never suspecting she'd once lived in a Manhattan penthouse. Bit by bit, Celia carved out a life that revolved around two goals: providing for her unborn child and healing from betrayal. Oliver's name rarely crossed her lips. The baby, whom she named Aurora, arrived after a grueling labor. In the hospital room, Layla held Celia's hand while tears of relief and love poured down her cheeks. "She's perfect," whispered Celia, cradling her infant, but the emptiness of Oliver's absence loomed like a shadow on that joyous day. In the birth certificate's father section, Celia left it blank. She told herself Aurora didn't need a father who discarded her before birth. Celia threw herself into freelance architectural design. Her eco-conscious approach, combined with her knack for maximizing small spaces, earned her a steady trickle of clients, local businesses, homeowners wanting sustainable renovations, even a small library in need of an expansion. Over the years, she developed a strong reputation thanks to word of mouth and glowing reviews online. Though money was tight, she managed to provide for Aurora, ensuring her daughter never felt deprived. Meanwhile, Oliver soared to new financial heights. Tabloids frequently chronicled Beaumont Properties' expansions, major hotel chains, a rumored partnership in Dubai, glitzy collaborations with top designers. Samantha Reed made occasional appearances at his side, fueling speculation they were an item. Photos of them at the Waldorf Astoria's charity ball or stepping out of a chauffeured car in London filled the society pages. Yet behind the glossy facade, Oliver felt a nagging emptiness. His personal life never quite stabilized with Samantha, who demanded extravagance and parties. And whenever he accomplished a major milestone, like signing a record-breaking real estate deal, he experienced a fleeting rush, then a hollow regret he couldn't articulate. Late at night, in the pristine silence of his penthouse, Oliver would sometimes scroll through old photos, stumbling on images of him and Celia from a happier time. He'd quickly shut them off, refusing to dwell on the life he'd tossed aside. 5 years slipped by, each one forging Aurora into a spirited child who loved painting city skylines and building tiny cardboard houses. Celia taught her about creativity, compassion, and the importance of caring for the world around them. Sometimes, Aurora asked about her father. Celia, lips tight, explained in gentle terms that he wasn't part of their life. She sensed the day was coming when Aurora would crave more answers. In those 5 years, Oliver never reached out, never tried to see if Celia bore his child to term. He convinced himself that severing ties was best for both of them. But deep down, an unsettled guilt churned. Little did he know that fate often weaves tragedies and reckonings in mysterious ways. And soon enough, Oliver would face the consequences of having turned his back on the one person who could have saved him from himself. Celia never guessed that her carefully rebuilt world would collide with Oliver's again. But New York, vast as it is, has a way of orchestrating unlikely encounters. One Saturday afternoon, she and Aurora ventured to a children's science fair at the Museum of Modern Art's Special Annex. Aurora, now 4.5, was eager to see a demonstration on sustainable architecture for kids. They wandered through the exhibit, Aurora's eyes alight with curiosity. She paused at each interactive station, absorbing instructions on how solar panels worked or how recycled materials could shape eco-friendly buildings. Celia beamed with pride at her daughter's wide-eyed interest. Suddenly, she felt an unsettling presence, a prickle at the back of her neck. Across the hall, near an abstract sculpture, stood Oliver Beaumont. He looked older, his once youthful features sharpened by stress, but still exuding that commanding air. Standing beside him, leaning in with feigned interest, was Samantha Reed. She wore a chic dress, her posture screaming confidence. Celia's heart lurched, an avalanche of memories flooding back. She instinctively pulled Aurora closer. Before she could slip away, Oliver glanced around, his gaze skimming the crowd, and froze. Their eyes locked. A flicker of shock passed across his face. It was obvious he recognized her, despite the years. She saw him lean towards Samantha, murmuring something, then stepping forward as if to approach. Panic and defiance wrestled within Celia. She considered darting behind a display, but Aurora tugged her hand, wanting to investigate a model of a wind turbine. Celia took a deep breath. She refused to run. She had nothing to be ashamed of. If Oliver wanted to speak, she'd face him on her terms. He made his way over, Samantha hanging back with a suspicious scowl. Up close, Celia noticed lines at the corners of his eyes, a tension in his jaw. "Celia," he said quietly, voice uncertain. "I didn't expect to see you." She nodded curtly. "Nor I, you." She glanced at Aurora, who was too engrossed in the exhibit to pay attention. Her chest tightened. Would he realize that the little girl was his daughter? Oliver opened his mouth, searching for words. "How have you been?" It sounded hollow, painfully inadequate. Celia answered honestly, "Busy with work." "Raising my child." Her tone was clipped. She wasn't about to volunteer details, but she wouldn't hide Aurora either. Oliver's gaze flicked to the child. A puzzle piece seemed to click, and something akin to remorse shadowed his eyes. Before he could speak again, Samantha marched over. "There you are," Samantha purred, slipping an arm around Oliver. She shot Celia a half smirk. "We should get going. The developer's dinner is soon." Oliver looked torn, hovering between the life he chose and the past he abandoned. Finally, he cleared his throat. "Celia, maybe we could catch up sometime." She stiffened, a swirl of emotions raging inside. "We have our own life now," she said, not unkindly but with finality. Then she turned away, guiding Aurora's hand. Samantha's pointed stare followed them. As they left, Celia felt a tempest of confusion. She had glimpsed genuine regret in Oliver's eyes. But it changed nothing. She'd built a new life, one he had no place in, or so she told herself. Oliver, meanwhile, stood rooted to the spot, haunted by the fleeting image of a child who might and likely did carry his blood. And in that moment, regret coiled around his heart tighter than ever before. That night, Oliver couldn't sleep. Back at his penthouse, recently redecorated at Samantha's insistence, he stared out the floor-to-ceiling windows at the sparkling Manhattan skyline. Yet all he saw in his mind's eye was Celia's tense expression and the small child at her side. He replayed the conversation, the way Celia said, "Raising my child," a statement with layers of meaning he'd been too cowardly to explore years ago. Samantha perched on the sofa behind him, flipping through design catalogues. She noticed his distraction, huffed, and asked what was on his mind. He brushed her off, claiming fatigue. That was enough for Samantha to sense it was about Celia. She recalled the museum incident with a scowl. Fueled by jealousy, Samantha launched into a tirade. "She's ancient history, Oliver. Don't let her guilt trip you now. We have real deals to focus on." But Oliver barely heard her. Something deep inside him ached. Memories of the day he kicked Celia out while she was pregnant flooded his thoughts. His own child, he had forcibly removed them from his life. The realization crashed over him that the little girl was almost certainly his daughter. Guilt gnawed at his insides. He recalled how Celia once said she wanted to raise children in a home filled with love and creativity. He had denied her that dream. He had destroyed something pure. Over the next few days, Oliver grew restless. Samantha tried to keep him occupied with parties, potential real estate expansions, and new design projects. Yet none of it satisfied him. He found himself rereading old emails from Celia, stumbling upon pictures of them smiling at a groundbreaking ceremony for their first joint renovation. Now, his success rang hollow. Even record profits from a Miami hotel didn't spark the usual thrill. Behind the scenes, cracks formed in Oliver's professional world. A major hotel chain reconsidered a partnership, citing rumors about Oliver's erratic behavior. A CFO at Beaumont Properties confided in him that some top executives were worried about his lack of focus. Normally, Oliver would have stomped out such doubts, but now he simply nodded, haunted by regrets. The man who once reveled in unstoppable ambition found his power draining away. Meanwhile, Celia also grappled with emotional upheaval. After the museum encounter, Aurora asked about the sad man who knew Mommy. Celia simply said he was someone from a long time ago. Still, the child sensed her mother's distress. Layla urged Celia to consider telling Aurora the truth about her father. Celia remained torn. She loathed Oliver's betrayal, but wondered if denying Aurora knowledge of her father's identity was fair. Oliver tried to track Celia down. He scoured her old phone number, social media, even hired a private investigator. He discovered she had her own small architectural firm, now specializing in sustainable community projects. The more he learned, the deeper his admiration grew for the woman he cast aside. Each new detail was a dagger of regret. Night after night, Oliver stared at the single photo he had of Celia, saved on his phone, a snapshot from their honeymoon in Napa Valley. He realized that the child's face from the museum cameo was a reflection of that same warm spirit. For the first time, his armor of arrogance cracked. He yearned to mend what he broke, unaware that redemption might not be as simple as signing a new contract. Some things, once shattered, never truly become whole again. Celia was in the midst of preparing Aurora's favorite breakfast banana pancakes when the intercom buzzed unexpectedly. Glancing at the clock, she wondered who could be calling at 7:30 in the morning. She wiped her hands on a kitchen towel and answered. "Miss Donovan?" said a cautious voice. "There's a gentleman here, Oliver Beaumont. Says he wants to see you. Should I send him up?" Her heart plummeted. She gripped the counter for support, memories rushing like a flood. Aurora, seated at the kitchen table coloring, noticed her mother's sudden pallor. Celia inhaled sharply. "No, I'll come down," she responded, bracing herself. Downstairs, in the apartment building's modest lobby, Oliver stood out like a peacock among pigeons, dressed in a tailored navy suit, fidgeting with his phone, ignoring the curious stares of residents who recognized him from business headlines. The moment he saw Celia, he stepped forward, face stricken with uncertainty. "Celia," he began, his voice catching. I wanted to talk. Please let me explain, or at least let me say, I'm sorry." She folded her arms, every muscle in her body tight. "What exactly are you sorry for? Cheating? Kicking me out while I was pregnant? Ignoring me for 5 years?" Oliver's shoulders sagged. "All of it," he said quietly. "I acted horribly. I was consumed with ambition, and I thought pushing you away was the solution. But I was wrong, and I'm trying to make it right. Let me come upstairs. Maybe we can talk in private." Her jaw clenched. A torrent of emotions raged, anger, hurt, a flicker of longing for closure. "I have a child upstairs, Oliver," she said evenly, "one you left behind before she even saw the light of day." His eyes flickered with pain. "I know, and I want to meet her, if that's possible." "I'm her father, Celia." That final statement nearly made her shake with fury. "Father?" she repeated in a whisper. "You forfeited that title a long time ago." She drew a trembling breath. "But Aurora is the sweetest soul, and I won't let you barge into her life just because you feel guilty now." Oliver bowed his head. "I understand. But please, at least let me prove I've changed. Give me a chance to be part of her life." Celia hesitated, waging an internal battle. Aurora was curious about her father, but Celia feared letting Oliver's chaos disrupt her daughter's stability. She also recognized that denying Aurora a chance to know him might create its own scars. Sighing, she relented slightly. "We can talk at a cafe down the street, alone, then we'll see." Oliver nodded, relief washing over his features. They agreed to meet in an hour. As he left, Celia felt the weight of the past press down on her. She wondered if she was making a mistake. Yet a quiet voice inside reminded her that while forgiveness might be elusive, clarity could help Aurora someday. Back in the apartment, she found Aurora still working on her drawing. The sight of her bright eyes steadied Celia's resolve. Oliver's reappearance might threaten everything she'd built, but she wasn't that naive. Frightened woman from 5 years ago. Whatever conversation awaited, she would face it head-on for the sake of the child who'd never known her father's face. An hour later, Celia and Oliver sat at a small table in a quiet cafe a few blocks from her apartment. A swirl of aromatic coffee and pastries enveloped them, though neither felt like indulging. The tension between them was palpable, two people with a shared history that had splintered into bitterness and regret. Oliver tried to speak first but faltered, running a hand through his hair as if searching for courage. Eventually he whispered, "I have no excuse for what I did. I was selfish, obsessed with success. Samantha fed my ego, telling me a baby would hold me back. I convinced myself you'd be better off without me." Celia listened, her posture rigid. That's not something you decide for someone else, especially when there's a child involved. He nodded, voice heavy. "I know, and I've spent 5 years trying to ignore that guilt. But seeing her at the museum tore me apart. Please believe I'm not here to buy my way back. I just want a chance to know my daughter." Celia's eyes stung. "Her name is Aurora. She knows nothing about you, and for a long time, I wasn't sure if that was a blessing or a curse. I struggled financially, emotionally, but we managed. She's my world." Oliver swallowed hard, imagining the hardships Celia endured. He asked about Aurora's interests, her personality, her favorite color, desperate for glimpses of the life he'd missed. At first, Celia answered with brief guarded statements. Gradually, her tone softened. Aurora's curiosity about architecture, her love for drawing houses and tall buildings, her laugh that lit up a room. Oliver soaked in every detail, each revelation a fresh wave of remorse. Then he gently said, "I want to meet her, Celia. Properly. I'll respect your boundaries, but I need that chance." Celia's chest tightened. A swirl of conflicting emotions wrestled inside her, fear of exposing Aurora to a father who might vanish again, anger at Oliver's gall, and a small glimmer of empathy. "She's not some toy you can pick up when you feel like it," she said, voice trembling. "You can't waltz in and out, Oliver," he nodded solemnly. "I promise I'm here to stay. If it means weekly supervised visits at first, so be it. I'll do whatever it takes. I know I've done irreparable harm, but maybe, just maybe, I can be better for her." Silence stretched. Celia sipped her coffee, eyes downcast. Memories of their early days flickered when Oliver was kind, supportive, a man she believed in. Could that man still exist under the layers of betrayal? At last, she spoke, her words measured. "You can see her next weekend." Briefly. "But I'll be present. And if she gets upset, we'll end it immediately." Relief flooded Oliver's face. "Thank you," he said softly, eyes glistening. "I won't squander this." Celia stood, heart thudding. This decision might change Aurora's life. She left the cafe, leaving Oliver alone, contemplating how to rebuild a bridge he'd burned to ashes. Outside, the crisp air stung her lungs. She questioned whether she was opening Pandora's box. Yet, for Aurora's sake, she'd risk it, giving Oliver a chance to prove fatherly love could triumph over the sins of his past. The day of Oliver and Aurora's first meeting arrived with a nervous energy hovering in the air. Celia arranged it at a small community park near her apartment. Children's laughter echoed from the swings and slides, while the sun cast dappled shadows beneath tall oak trees. She chose this setting, hoping the outdoor space would ease some of the tension. She explained to Aurora that a friend of Mommy's wanted to say hello. The child, curious but not suspicious, agreed, too enthralled by the promise of a new playmate. Celia could hardly still her racing heart, bracing for how Aurora might react to Oliver. Would she sense a connection? Oliver arrived early, dressed more casually than usual, no tailored suit, just a simple sweater and jeans. He clutched a small plush elephant in one hand, a gift he'd agonized over picking. When Celia guided Aurora toward him, the little girl regarded him with wide, inquisitive eyes. Oliver's expression quivered between a forced smile and the edge of tears. "Hi," he said softly, crouching to Aurora's level. "I'm Oliver. Nice to meet you." His voice trembled. He offered the plush elephant. Aurora glanced up at Celia for reassurance, then slowly accepted it, giggling at its floppy ears. Oliver exhaled, tension ebbing as Aurora's acceptance lit a flicker of hope in him. Celia lingered nearby, watchful. They strolled through the park, Aurora skipping and twirling the elephant by its trunk. She showed Oliver her latest treasure, a set of colored pencils, and described the pictures she loved to draw. Every now and then she'd ask innocuous questions. "Why do you want to be my friend? Are you Mommy's classmate?" Oliver struggled to answer. He glanced at Celia, who simply said, "He's someone I used to know, sweetie." Aurora nodded, unfazed for now. As Aurora darted toward a climbing frame, Oliver seized the moment to speak to Celia. "She's amazing," he murmured, voice tight with wonder. "You've done an incredible job raising her." Pain flashed across his face. "I can't believe I missed all these years." Celia's guard remained high. "It wasn't easy. We managed." She paused, scanning Aurora's bright laughter as she climbed. "For her sake, I'll let you spend time together. But let's move slowly, Oliver. I don't want her confused or hurt if you back out again." He nodded earnestly. "I understand. I won't walk away this time. I swear." Their conversation paused as Aurora bounded back, tugging on Oliver's hand to join her in a game of tag. Celia watched from a bench, conflicting emotions swirling. Part of her felt relief that Aurora was comfortable. Another part feared this fragile new bond might collapse if Oliver's old selfishness resurfaced. The morning slipped by in a series of small joys, a shared giggle over a clumsy slide down the playground, Oliver pushing Aurora on the swing as she squealed for more. For a few hours, they formed a semblance of a family. The scene tugged at Celia's heart, stirring memories of the hopeful start of her marriage. When it came time to leave, Aurora shyly hugged Oliver, thanking him for the elephant. He whispered a promise to see her again soon. Celia noted the wetness in his eyes, unsure if it was guilt or gratitude. As they parted ways, Oliver's expression spoke volumes. He realized just how precious a father-daughter bond could be, and how grave his mistake had been in forsaking it. The question loomed whether this new chapter marked the start of redemption, or simply another heartbreak waiting to unfold. Over the next few weeks, Oliver visited Aurora regularly under Celia's watchful eye. These meetups took place in public spaces or at Celia's cozy apartment, with Layla sometimes present. Initially, Aurora treated Oliver like a friendly adult. She'd show him her drawings and ask him simple questions about the world. Gradually, she became more comfortable, inviting him into her imaginative games, climbing into his lap with crayons and storybooks. Each time Oliver arrived, Celia observed him, searching for any sign of impatience or pretense. Instead, she saw genuine warmth. He showed up with child-friendly architectural mini-sets for them to assemble together. He asked Aurora about her day at preschool, listened attentively to her rambling stories, and even attempted to bake cookies with her in Celia's small kitchen, though they burned half of them in the process. All the while, Celia's heart waged a private battle. She couldn't deny the joy in Aurora's eyes whenever Oliver appeared. She admired the patience he demonstrated, a stark contrast to the ruthless businessman she remembered. And yet, her own pain lingered. The memory of him flinging her out of his penthouse, pregnant and alone, loomed over any flicker of renewed affection. One afternoon, after a particularly delightful session of building a cardboard house with Aurora, Oliver asked Celia if they could talk in private. Layla kindly offered to take Aurora to the nearby park, leaving the two alone in the living room. Oliver took a seat on the worn couch, which felt worlds away from his penthouse's designer furniture. He gazed around with a hint of sadness, noticing how modestly Celia lived now, each piece of decor carefully chosen, reflecting her creative spirit without the extravagance of wealth. "You've made a lovely home here," he said softly. Celia folded her arms, leaning against the kitchen doorway. "We managed just fine," she replied, guarded. "What did you want to discuss?" He inhaled, his voice low. "I've been thinking about everything. The way I treated you, the child I abandoned, the man I've become. I see now how empty my life was. Samantha and we broke up. She left after realizing I couldn't give her endless excitement, or maybe I left. It's all a blur. But the point is, none of that matters now." Celia's eyes flickered. She listened silently, bracing for whatever came next. "I want to help," Oliver continued. "Financially, yes, pay for Aurora's education, her future. But also, I'd like to support your architectural firm if you'll let me. You're incredibly talented, and your sustainable projects are inspiring." A wave of old wounds rose within Celia. "Money won't fix what you did," she said, her voice thick with emotion, "and I don't need your pity." "We're not a charity case." He shook his head. "It's not pity, it's respect. And guilt, yes. But mostly I believe in you, Celia. I want to invest in your company, be part of something meaningful for a change." Her breath caught. She had spent years clawing her way to a stable, honest living. Accepting Oliver's money felt like a double-edged sword, his moral debt versus her desire for independence. Sensing her turmoil, Oliver added softly, "I know trust isn't rebuilt overnight. Whatever you decide, I'll abide by it. But I'm here to stay, and I'm done with half measures." Celia closed her eyes. In the space between them, a fragile possibility flickered, one that threatened to either mend some of the rifts or reopen them deeper. She opened her mouth to respond, uncertain of her own words. A new chapter was indeed beginning, though neither knew if it would lead to redemption or simply another heartbreak. A few months elapsed as Oliver continued to be an active presence in Aurora's life. He took her to art workshops, introduced her to child-friendly engineering kits, and even accompanied Celia to Aurora's preschool open house, proudly observing her daughter's handcrafted collages. The transformation in him was undeniable. Where once he exuded impatience and ambition, now he showed humility and genuine affection. Celia remained cautious. She let Oliver cover certain expenses, like Aurora's extracurricular lessons, while refusing outright handouts for her architectural business. Although she recognized his sincerity, she still clung to independence, scarred by memories of how swiftly he had once turned on her. Yet, as weeks turned into months, a delicate bond grew. They occasionally shared small moments, dinner at Celia's apartment after Aurora fell asleep, discussing old memories of their budding romance in Manhattan, or reviewing Celia's design proposals for a community center. Oliver offered insights, but never pressed his agenda, carefully respecting the boundaries she set. One crisp evening, after a local fundraiser where Celia showcased her sustainable housing concept, Oliver walked her home while Layla babysat Aurora. The city lights twinkled above, reminiscent of a time when their future seemed limitless. Pausing in front of her building, Celia took a shaky breath. "Thank you for your help tonight," she said. Your input on the financial aspects. It helped me secure more donations. Oliver smiled gently. I'm glad. This project is important. It's going to help so many families in need. She studied him carefully. Gone was the man who once worshipped lavish galas and expensive getaways with Samantha. You've changed, she murmured. He nodded, gaze somber. I had to. I lost you. Lost the child I never knew. That emptiness forced me to confront who I became. I wish I could erase my past mistakes, but I can't. All I can do is be better now. Celia's eyes glistened. She recalled nights she cried herself to sleep in Layla's studio, pregnant and terrified. I never expected to let you back into Aurora's life, she admitted. But seeing the joy in her eyes, that's all I want. Her happiness. Oliver gently reached for Celia's hand, a hesitant gesture. When she didn't pull away, he clasped it, voice trembling. I don't expect forgiveness easily, but I do hope maybe someday we can move forward together. Her heart pounded at the implication. Was he asking for a second chance? The prospect of trusting him again felt both terrifying and oddly comforting. She withdrew her hand slowly. I don't know if I can go that far yet, she whispered, but I'm willing to see where this new path leads, carefully. Oliver exhaled relief, a small, hopeful smile on his lips. He bid her good night and departed, leaving Celia awash in a swirl of cautious optimism. For the first time, she entertained the thought that perhaps people could change, that broken things might be mended with enough love and patience. Still, the scars ran deep. She had Aurora's well-being to consider, her own dreams to nurture. Rebuilding trust with Oliver was like constructing a structure from rubble, a long, fragile process that could collapse at any misstep. Yet in that uncertain darkness, for the first time in half a decade, a faint light of healing beckoned. 6 months later, Celia stood on a small stage in front of a newly completed community center in the Bronx, wearing a hard hat and a broad smile. Her sustainable design had become a reality. Walls made from recycled materials, solar panels powering the building, rainwater collection systems integrated into the roof. Local families could now access affordable daycare, educational classes, and healthy meal programs. She had poured her heart into this project, and now it stood as a testament to what dedicated collaboration could achieve. In the audience, Aurora sat on Oliver's lap, waving a tiny handcrafted flag. Oliver caught Celia's eye, offering a supportive nod. His presence no longer rattled her. She felt gratitude that he'd helped gather sponsors for the project, including philanthropic donors who might have otherwise overlooked her small firm. Her business had grown modestly, and she even hired 2 part-time assistants, hopeful about the future. After the ribbon-cutting ceremony, Celia stepped down to greet well-wishers. Oliver and Aurora ran over, Aurora squealing with excitement. "Mommy, the building is so pretty." "Is it for me too?" Celia laughed, bending to hug her daughter. "It's for everyone, sweetheart. You can come here for art classes if you like." Oliver looked on, pride evident. "She asked me if she could paint a mural in the playroom," he explained with a chuckle. "I said, that's up to the boss, her mum," Celia smiled. "We'll see what the directors say." Then, gently, she added, "Thank you, Oliver, for everything you did to make this happen." He shrugged, a little embarrassed. "All I did was help with numbers and pitch decks. You're the visionary here." They fell silent as Aurora was whisked away by Layla, who promised to show her the new crafts corner. Leaving Oliver and Celia to share a rare moment alone, the buzz of conversation flowed around them, but they stood in their own small bubble. Oliver cleared his throat. "Listen," he began softly, "I'm heading to Seattle next week. I'm scouting a potential philanthropic development, low-income housing near the waterfront. I'd love for you to come, give your input, and Aurora too, if you want. It could be a mini-trip, combine business and a bit of sightseeing. If you're comfortable." Celia hesitated. Traveling with Oliver felt like a leap beyond their current arrangement. But she also felt the pull and opportunity for Aurora to see more of the world and for them to test if they could truly function as a supportive unit. "I'll think about it," she said. Her voice wavered, a sign that she was seriously considering it. He smiled tentatively. "That's all I can ask for." Later that night, after the celebration wound down, Celia walked the quiet streets with Aurora in hand and Oliver at her side. They passed a mural depicting city life, bright colors swirling into each other, reminding Celia of her early days of love and heartbreak. As Aurora skipped ahead, Oliver asked, "Have you given more thought to our future? Yours? Mine? Aurora's?" She paused under a street lamp, the glow illuminating the concern in her eyes. "It's complicated," she admitted. "I'm still afraid of letting you in too close. But I also see how happy Aurora is around you." Oliver gently reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "I want to be here for both of you, in whatever capacity you'll allow, as a father, and maybe, someday, as more." Celia's heart pounded. She remembered the quiet nights in a lonely apartment, the tears, the resentment. But she also recalled the last half year of slow, careful repair. "I'm not promising anything beyond co-parenting, but I'm open to seeing if we can rebuild what was lost. With time," he nodded, swallowing the emotion in his throat. Together, they caught up to Aurora, who pointed at the painted silhouettes of families on the mural. The irony wasn't lost on Celia. 5 years ago, Oliver had obliterated the notion of family. Now, he was standing here, humbly asking to be part of one. The structure of trust they were forging was still fragile, but each day it gained another layer of strength. Walking on, Celia realized that sometimes heartbreak can carve out deeper compassion, that forgiveness, while not guaranteed, can emerge from genuine remorse. She saw in Oliver a man changed by regret, eager to invest not just money, but also heart into a life he nearly threw away. Maybe, she thought, redemption stories don't always end with a clean slate, but they can begin with small, honest steps toward healing and love. A life shattered by betrayal can sometimes be pieced back together, one courageous step at a time. For Oliver Beaumont, losing everything he once held, dear his marriage, his fatherhood, and the trust of the woman he loved, opened his eyes to the hollowness of blind ambition. Through sincerity, humility, and a fierce dedication to the daughter he almost never knew, he began to rebuild the foundation of a family he once cast aside. If this story touched you, if you found hope in its message that forgiveness and redemption can flourish even after heartbreak, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support allows us to continue crafting tales that delve into the complexities of love, regret, and the resilience of the human heart. Stay tuned for more stories that remind us it's never too late to embrace what truly matters.